again. In this unit, we're going to deal with Jeremiah's chapter 27 through 32. This section has some intriguing passages. One of those passages is chapter 29. Now, the historical setting of chapter 29 is that Nebuchadnezzar had already come to Jerusalem and had taken captive a large portion of the population, some 10,000 even, which included the king, many of the nobility, and then he had set up another king, Zedekiah, on the throne. So we have a king in exile, Jehoiachin. We've got a king on the throne in Jerusalem, Zedekiah. Interestingly, Jeremiah seems to depict Jehoiachin, the exile king, as the true king. And the people that had been exiled into Babylon, there were false prophets that were speaking to them, saying basically, don't worry, in about 2 years, you're going to be back in Jerusalem. Well, Jeremiah's message was totally different. He says, no, you're not going to be back in 2 years. In fact, build houses. My usual take on it is, build houses, you'll be able to pay off the mortgage. You're going to be there for a lifetime. Plant vineyards, plant orchards. You're going to be able to eat the fruit of those vineyards and orchards. In other words, you're not coming back to this land. Your children, your grandchildren will, but you will not. Now, which raises an interesting question. Which of those prophets was a true prophet? The false prophets were saying within 2 years you will be back. Jeremiah is saying 70 years you will be back. Now, Scripture says that a true prophet is known by what he says coming true. Jeremiah's standing as a true prophet, though, was not known during Jeremiah's lifetime. It was known in the lifetime of the children and the grandchildren of those who had gone into exile. When we serve God, a lot of people don't recognize us as God's servants. That's okay, as long as our Master does, as long as God recognizes us as His servants. Another very important passage in this lesson is chapter 31, verses 31 through 34, the so-called New Covenant passage. Very often we as Christians want to baptize this passage and make it apply only to the church. Now, I recognize the fullest expression of this is in the church. But the passage as it's given is very Jewish. It starts off by saying, God saying, behold, the days are coming when I will cut with the house of Israel and the house of Judah. The context of this is very Jewish. Recognize again, we have to interpret a passage in its context. We cannot just lift the passage and apply it to something that it doesn't specifically apply to. Now, recognize again, we get to read Scripture over their shoulders. God is directly talking to them in their context, applying that passage to their context. But because it's inspired, He's also speaking to us, but in a more indirect way. So we need, remember the principle. Interpret a passage in its context. That's the primary focus. Again, the principle of what God is saying to them applies to us, but in a more indirect way. I hope you enjoy our study this week. God bless you.